Hello and welcome to Scott Bryant on YouTube, and the business name is Active Bryant Fitness Systems. Thank you for clicking on the video. Please subscribe and please follow. This video is all about entities and shamanism and how I got into shamanism and how you can find an entity in your own body and how you can get rid of it, and why they come into the body and the whole reason why they're there in the first place. So let's get straight to it. So I started studying with Alberto Villoldo in 2013, or started reading his books. So there's Alberto Villoldo there, PhD, doctor, and he used to cut open brains of people and analyse platelets and that in the brain. And what he found was, clinically, is that the people that were taking medical drugs to get better made them sicker and didn't really solve the health issue. So then what he did was he became an anthropologist, and he studied the indigenous populations around the world and studied the shamans. And then he brought out, I think it's about 24 books, which are all brilliant. I've got about 6 of them. And I just recently done an online course with him, which was 10 lessons, which I've done every single one of them, and it was absolutely superb. Now, after doing my level 5 in 2013, become the first level 5 master in London, which was a real achievement for me, considering my learning difficulty and how much money I had to put into it and how much work I had to put into it. And to stay determined to do it and to keep going with it and not give up. Even though I was getting lots of naysayers around me going, you won't do it, you'll give up. What are you wasting all that money for? But I believe if you do a course, what's the point in starting it and not going completely to the end, where many Czech practitioners, well, not Czech practitioners till they've been passed by Paul, will do level IMS 1 or IMS 2 or even IMS 3 and not go to the end to find out how Paul wants you to put it all together and how he's put it all together to work with Oscar de la Hoya, one of his practitioners working with him. So Paul helped. He worked with Danny Wade, a skateboarder. He worked with Chuck Norris. He worked with Kobe Bryant. He worked with Anthony Robbins. He worked with Lord Hamilton's wife, then Lord Hamilton himself. He's helped me. He's helped so many people. It's just unbelievable. So after studying and passing level 5 in 2013, something told me I needed to go into the shaman world. So when we was doing our level 4 in San Diego, California, where I was there for 14 days, it was amazing because I spent extra money to spend extra time with Paul, which was an amazing time. We started doing some drumming, and I really connected to that. So I'd already bought a drum, started drumming on a regular basis, and then realised that drumming was involved in shaman work to get you to go to the lower world or the upper world, in which to experience different frequencies and different energies and different spirits, like animal spirits and stuff like that. Like my power animal is a bear, and your power animals and all that can change. So let's go back to entities. So after doing this course, it took about a month, I think, roughly, with Alberto Villoldo, and him recording everything, and he's really brilliant. The videos are absolutely excellent. Really practical stuff, really easy to understand. And that's what I loved about Paul's work. Yes, it was very complex, and I had to read the manuals 5 times and watch the DVDs or the videos then 5 or 6 times to really understand it and get it in my head. And I'm somebody that likes to get things 100% right, as much as my brain can take it on, if that makes sense, and keep practicing it and practicing it and practicing it until it becomes perfect. So Alberto Villoldo was talking about entities and how if a family member dies and they die in a car crash, or they're murdered, or it's in an accident or something like that, they don't get to say their I love yous before they die. And if they've not forgiven their family members and people that have hurt them, they pass it on into the next world, if you believe in that, and into the next world, and when they're born into a new body as a new soul, if you're open to that again, okay? So we don't just die, go to heaven and stay in heaven or hell. I don't believe in any of that. I think that we're too intelligent, too smart as human beings for us just to die and it's over. Does that make sense? So in this, he says that if somebody dies, they need to be assisted with dying. So if you're dying, sometimes if you're in the hospital, the vicar's called, and the vicar will give you last rites where he'll put a cross across the body type thing. But Alberto Villoldo is saying is that you've got these chakras that represent different energies in the body. So one of them is the fourth chakra, which is all to do with love. So if you're not sending love to your family members and people that have harmed you in this life, you'll go into the next life, spirit world, stay with me, with negativity. And this will follow you wherever you end up later on. You know, people used to say to me, when I first started the Czech studying, oh, you're a really old soul. Have you heard that saying? And that means you've had multiple lives. So you've come back and you keep learning and you keep learning. And the strange thing is that if you don't learn the mistake, by the mistake, it keeps happening time and time again until it clicks in your head. You know, like I had made a mistake on money in 2008 where I was 25 grand in debt. So I spent 2009 paying all them debts off and clearing everything, and still to this day I'm totally debt free, which is a feat for me because I like spending money and I really enjoy money when I've got it. Does that make sense? If you're one of my friends, I will take you out for dinner when I'm flush. When I'm skint, you could take me out for dinner. Does that make sense? But I try and treat everybody when things are good. And obviously in life, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. So going back to the entities. So when somebody dies in a horrific accident, or they're in hospital and their family can't get there to say goodbye, their entity or energy field is still on the earth plane. So what they'll do is they'll jump into a body, either a family member's body, or they'll jump into a stranger's body, hoping that that stranger will get them to somebody like me eventually. Okay? So shamanism is getting bigger and bigger. I think it's the biggest growing religion in the world compared to Muslims and Christians and Jehovah's Witnesses and all that type of stuff. Because there's no religious Bible to stick to. Does that make sense? It's just all about loving people, being genuine, being honest, being fair, and loving nature, trees, plants, sun, moon, and all that type of stuff. So if say your father dies, doesn't get a chance to say goodbye or say his I love yous to you or your family, he may jump into your body. So when he's in your body as an entity but not a human being, if he's an alcoholic, you'll be an alcoholic. If he's got cancer, you'll have cancer. If he has a brain depression issue, you will have the brain depression issue. But at a much higher level, because he's trying to connect to you to go, I want to be let free. Take me to somewhere to be let free. Okay? So when somebody dies, they have to say I love yous and forgive people. But many people don't. They hold on to that hate. They hold on to that anger. So when they go into the ether and then into the new soul, they come back to earth and they're a bastard. Or they're not a nice person. Have you ever met a person and they've had the perfect upbringing, but they're just complete shits? And this is the reason why. And it makes 100% sense to me. And with Alberto Villoldo being, you know, a medical doctor with PhD, so very, very clever. When he was cutting open people's brains when they was on medical drugs, he could see that the drugs weren't really working. And I believe, unless it's a really severe illness, the body can do its own healing. So in the courses that I was doing with Alberto Villoldo, he was saying that most people that get the illness and the disease, it's because they stop loving, they stop giving, or as shamans say, they stop dancing, singing, telling stories and playing drums. Because you've got to think about drums go right back, right, it sounds like a song, doesn't it? Right back to humans. When we evolved, we started playing drums and making music and dancing around the campfire and then getting ready to kill the deer or dig up the carrot, but kill the deer more so than eat just vegetables, in which to survive. And obviously, when you do drumming, it helps relax you. It helps you go into the upper world and the lower world in which to connect to other things if you believe in shamanic techniques. Does that make sense? So I worked with a shaman for 2 years and we used to check each other for entities. I never had one, ever. But she had them many times when I used to check her and we had to get them out of her body. Simply because when she'd be working with somebody, it would jump out and go into her body. And because she wasn't as healthy and as vital as what I was, that's one reason why they can get in there. And that's why if you're working with a fat shaman, it shouldn't be done. Yes, every shaman works with great loving intention, but there's some that don't. So you got to be careful. There's lots of cowboys out there that are just thinking, oh, that money. Oh, give me your money and we'll pretend that we've healed you. Now, the great thing about this shaman that I was seeing, every time I went to see her, hand on heart, every time I went to see her, I would feel different after it a couple of days later. And things would shift and change in my life as well. And I was supposed to go to Peru and study with the shamans, with the Peruvian shamans, the Quero, but was really, really ill, so I couldn't go. Got on the plane, had to get off the plane and come home, see the doctor, got antibiotics from the doctor. He didn't know what he was doing. He's been struck off now. And I was on these antibiotics that give me constant panic attacks. I was getting 6 or 7 a day. And I had that for 6 months. But it could have been something to do with the shaman, me not being 100% ready, even though I booked the flight, paid for everything, and was all ready to do everything. So it was quite disappointing that I didn't go. I will definitely go. Maybe by the end of the year or maybe next year. But after working or studying with Alberto Villoldo for these 10 courses, these 10 levels, it was really insightful. So one thing a shaman does is that if you got an entity inside your body, is a technique to find out whether there is one. And 2, to get it out and put it in a Vogel crystal. Now, when I was studying with Paul, Paul said that he had a Chinese man tell him that he had an entity and told him to scream it out of the body, which he did. But the thing is, if you do that, then the entity's just flying around. It's not being released in ceremonial way. So I'm not too sure whether it goes back the way it would if you do a ceremony with a Vogel crystal. And I've used this a few times with different clients. And the other thing is when you have hucha, which is dark energy around the body, as well as having entities, which is a form of dark energy, because it's messing with your head, it's messing with the way that you think, the way that you move, because it's trying to contact you. And if you're not in the world of being open-minded like I am, you'll be going, what do I keep doing that shit thing for? Why do I keep attracting the same person? Why does that keep happening? And this could be one of the reasons why. And this is why you need to be checked by a 9 rights a practitioner or nine rights shaman, because we do it with love, compassion, no nastiness or horribleness whatsoever. So after I get the entity into the vocal crystal, then I will go over the park, do a certain ceremony, and then release it. And we just release it with breath into the ether, and then do another ceremony on the client to make sure that it doesn't come back or another entity jumping into the body. Does that make sense? So I know this is all a bit deep and really, really woo-woo, but I've seen it happen with clients. I had one client, I think I told this story before, had lower back pain, and I said to him, you know, after becoming a level 5 and doing some shaman work, I said, where do you think the back pain is coming from? And he went, I don't know, Scott. I've been to see everybody and nobody's been able to pinpoint it. So I've done some flexibility assessments, some orthopedic assessments, and he was a little bit overweight, so that would be affecting him. He was very tall, that would be affecting him. And I just said to him, you know, I know you're really open to the Czech stuff and you like it. Can I do a woo-woo session with you? He went, woo-woo? What do you mean woo-woo? I went, well, I just want to check you for daggers and darts and check to see whether you've been not grieving for somebody. He went, oh, my dog died, you know, a couple of months ago, and his wife come in. She went, yeah, he's been really upset about that. And I went, did you grieve for your dog? And he went, well, what do you mean? How do you grieve for a dog? I went, well, you light a candle, you blow love to your dog's picture, because dogs have an energy, they have chakras, they have, you know, hairy and all that, but they have emotion and stuff like that. Like a dog, if it sniffs you in a certain place, the dog can sniff out whether you've got cancer or some form of an illness. Does that make sense? Now, pet owners would understand this, but if you're not a pet owner, you wouldn't understand it, okay? So, if your dad has cancer and he jumps into you after he's died, it could be because he needs to be released. Does that make sense? So if you're, all right, we're going back to the story. Sorry, I went off a bit. So I've done this technique where I go around the body and I'm looking for daggers and darts. Once I've opened up sacred space, once I've done cleansing with him and me so we don't get attacked by anything, and done a ceremony, I found out that it wasn't daggers or darts. He just had this dark energy from the pet, from not grieving, and it was in his lower back. So I told him what to do and he did it, and within 2 to 3 weeks his back pain had completely disappeared. But I know he had the structural issue, he had the weight issue, he lost, I think, 2 stone with us and got really strong quite quickly. For a guy of his size and build, was really quite surprising, okay? But after doing the daggers and darts thing, then I did the realignment of his love chakra, because that was spinning the opposite way and it needed to be energized and cleaned out. So I did all that as well. And he couldn't believe how different he was feeling. And then his wife had mental, emotional issues. And she went, how can we deal with this, Scott? You know, I feel like I'm going mad. You know, you're working on my husband. How can I overcome this? And I went, you overthink stuff, innit? And she went, yeah. And I went, I'm going to get you something to try, and just try it for 10 days. So I bought her some Bach flower remedy, a certain one, and I done muscle testing with her to see whether it was the right one, and it was. So I got her to take that for 10 days, and her husband saw me and said, she's a different person. I can't believe that we was going to go and see a psychiatrist or some sort of mental person in, you know, to deal with the brain, or go on antidepressants. Oh, she was on some medication and come off all of it as well. Simply because of the shaman work that I did with the Institute and working with Paul enabled me to learn to empty my brain and let whatever comes in, signals or spirit world, to tell me what I need to do. So in the Alberto Villoldo system, you open up the 8th chakra, and that allows spirits and that to come in to give you intuition signals on what you need to do. And they're not watching, but they're there in energy, seeing what you're doing. Does that make sense? So any healing that I do with my clients, there's never a set way. Does that make sense? Because every client is individual. Everybody's different. So even my workout programs are all different for each client, because one client might have a tight hamstring, the other client might have a loose hamstring, the other client can squat, the other client can't deadlift, or one client can do chins, another client can't do press-ups. Does that make sense? So every program is different, and the same with the shaman techniques. Even to get out an entity is the same technique, but sometimes I might do it slightly different, but I'll still always put it in the crystal and release it the right way, because I don't want it to come back on me. Does that make sense? So with dark energy, lots of people have this, and I feel it when I'm on the tube, when I'm walking down the road, when I'm walking around the park. As they walk past me, I can feel this type of deep, dark, negative energy. And then I can hear it on the phone as well. If I'm chatting to somebody and their respiratory rate is really high, then I know that they're stressed out and their cortisol levels are really high and they're probably in adrenal fatigue. Does that make sense? And then if I chat to somebody else and they're very slow and calm speaking, I'll be like, oh, that's a carbohydrate type. This is somebody that's into running or yoga, and they're probably going to be a left brainer that wants me to show them loads of science, and they're probably not going to like the woo-woo stuff. Does that make sense? And this is unique to the check system, is that when you get to the higher levels, if you're into the woo-woo stuff, then you will pick up all these techniques that are just amazing that I never learnt as a personal trainer. As a personal trainer, you come in the early days, in the 2000s, you'll be overweight, and I'll be thinking, you're going to be trained really hard for 60 minutes and you're going to be crawling out of the gym and crying. But then after another trainer said to me, Scott, you're really good with people. Why don't you look into Paul Check? And that guy, I met him, I was walking along Marble Arch going to see my plastic surgeon client, and he pulled up in his London cabbie. He's a London cabbie. And I went, you used to work in a gym. Why are you not in the fitness industry anymore? And he just said, like, it was pretty shit and money's always up and down, but being a cabbie, the money's really good as long as you learn the knowledge and stuff. And he went, did you do that check stuff? And I went, yeah, I'm a level 4 now. And he nearly fucking fell out of his taxi, you know? It was really, really funny. But if it wasn't for him giving me the little nudge and introducing me into Check, and when I went to see Check in Brighton, when he done a seminar on medicine ball training, that just blew me away. One, what fantastic shape he was in, and two, the fucking moccasins he walked in with, and I just thought, who's this fucking cunt? And I told him that, and he just pissed himself laughing. And his humour's a bit like mine, and he's got an addictive personality. I've got an addictive personality that I have to try and keep under control. But when you know you've got an addictive personality, it's easy. It's when you're in denial that you find it harder to control. So if somebody's got an entity, they'll be thinking differently to you, as in a lot more dark thoughts, a lot more negative stuff they do to themselves. And they'll say to you or me as a practitioner, oh, I do all this really stupid stuff, Scott, and I just don't know why. I'm like, well, let's check you for an entity and see if it's a family member that's passed away, that's jumped into you, and now I'm going to get it to jump out of you into my crystal, and then we'll release it, and then you'll feel better. I know this is right way out there, and many people don't understand it, unfortunately. But it's like, in some ways, it's like an exorcism. You know what vicars do when somebody's possessed by an evil spirit. Now, I believe that some people that have schizophrenia may have that, or they may have a bad entity, you know, a strong bad entity in their body. So somebody, a family member might have been a murderer, and they're just full of darkness, and that's what's controlling them. And I've had many people come up to me and talk to me that I know have got schizophrenia by the way that they act, the way that they move. And I normally get off the train or get off the bus or walk away because I know some of them you just can't help. Does that make sense? And if you do try and help them, you can end up getting murdered or having something bad happen to you. Now, a little story, many years ago, I think I was a level 2, and I worked with a Mossad gangster. And I worked with him for about 6 months. And he said to me, what you do, Scott, as a Czech practitioner will be really good in prisons. Would you be open to it? And I was quite excited at first about working in a prison and helping, you know, prisoners, you know, maybe meditate and learn how to get out of their body and not let all the negativity drag them down that goes around in prisons, like, you know, boiling up a kettle full of sugar and throwing it over someone's face because they might have farted next to them or done something stupid, you know. But lucky enough, I never did. But I come close to it. And a relation of mine was in the prison service, and she said it was absolutely horrific. So I'm pleased I didn't go, because I'm thinking that if I did do that type of work, everything would jump into me. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Sorry, the battery's getting low. So so if you're doing things that are unexplained, and if you keep attracting, sorry, I'm putting the lead back in, and you keep attracting negative stuff all the time, or you're just wondering with, oh, for fuck's sake, that's the entity turning off the Mac. It's the only light I've got at the moment. So if you are having these problems, I am very expensive. If you want to find out, then you can get in touch, or go and see a 9 rights practitioner to help you get it out of the body. So I will be doing Alberto Villauda's Masters, which is 6 months of 12 hours a week of intense studying, meditation, and really going a lot deeper than what I did with my last shaman, but maybe not. Who knows? You know, I just like the whole system. From what I studied, the 10 lessons already, and I'll get a certificate, which lots of people don't trust. Oh, I can do this. Lots of people need to see a bit of paper, unfortunately. And in the shaman world, they don't believe in bits of paper. You either can do it or you can't, or everyone's got a shaman in them, but not everyone chooses to do it. Does that make sense? And the thing I like about the Alberto Villaudo system, it's all based in love. There's no hate, there's no malice, there's no sending bad stuff to people, you know, which they do in other black magic or white magic that people use. And it does work. So the thing you got to remember about being a shaman is that we can be attacked constantly by negative energy, negative people, people that don't understand it at all. I've had clients say to me, "Yeah, Scott, I want to do the Czech practitioner stuff, but I'm not into that woo-woo stuff." And I'm like, well, I can't get you better. I can't really help you. And unfortunately, I heard the other day that somebody that I tried to work with about 8 years now, maybe longer, I tried to work with them, gave them some documentation to fill out. They never filled out the documentation. So that tells us as practitioners that they're not ready, they're not going to do it. And they asked for their money back. And I said, look, I don't give refunds after 7 weeks. And I stuck to my guns, but then it caused problems with other things, which it shouldn't have done really. I'll let you know the story if I know you personally. And this person has now got cancer. And I said to that person, after talking to them over the phone, I really advise you to do this now, 8 years ago, otherwise you'll get cancer. And now they've got it, which is really, really sad. But that was me tapping into my intuition and what I'd learned through the Czech stuff and reading lots of other stuff by other people and tapping into my intuition. Does that make sense? So unfortunately, this person, I just want to send them love and healing, and I just hope that they can reverse it. But from what I hear, they're full of real dark energy, and when you've got that way of thinking, you can't heal. Some people will never heal because they're on this journey of their life contract of that you're going to die when you're 56. Does that make sense? And they don't seek other knowledge or other professionals to help them. Like I know somebody else has got something wrong with them, and I said, do this, do this, do this, do this, and this will help. Hasn't done any of it. But if I said, right, it's £220 an hour to chat with me, they would do it because they're paying £220. Does that make sense? And this is why, as an energy healer now, or shaman practitioner myself, and Czech practitioner, my time is not free. I charge for my time because I'm going to give you golden nuggets, many golden nuggets that if you implement it and use it, it will change everything. It will change everything. And on average, you know, if anybody comes to see me for the Czech practitioner work, it's not 3 months, it's 12 months. Because there's so many mental, emotional, physical issues that need to be changed that can't be changed just like that, unfortunately. But with the shaman work, pulling out daggers and darts that are causing maybe a knee pain, elbow pain, neck pain, it's instant. Getting rid of an entity is instant. Getting rid of dark Hucha energy that's making you feel low and depressed all the time is instant. But changing posture is not instant. Losing body fat is not instant unless you get it sucked out, and it's all going to come back anyway because you've not changed your diet or lifestyle. Does that make sense? So I hope you've enjoyed this video about entities, and I hope you haven't... Oh, I've got to tell you how to get rid of it if you think that you got one. Sit in a chair and scream and throw it out of the body. And then see how you feel afterwards. If you feel better, your dark energy's gone, or the dark thoughts are gone, or you feel much clearer in your mind, then you've got rid of it. But if you haven't done all the other techniques that I do, you may get another one. Does that make sense? So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment, please subscribe, please share with your friends. And my shaman work that I do with my clients now, you have to book a minimum of 10 sessions for me to take you on. Simply because I've got so many techniques I need to do in which to get it really right and to get your energies really functioning well. Does that make sense? So to get rid of the daggers and darts, to take you on soul journeys, to get you to rewrite your life contract, to get rid of Hucha, to check you for entities which may come back, or they shouldn't come back once I've done the techniques. But if you're going in a nightclub raving with, you know, 10,000 people that are all taking ecstasy, you will pick up a dark energy, definitely, because ecstasy is not made in a... it is made in a lab, but it's not made with good intention, is it? Does that make sense? So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, please share, please like, and we'll chat again soon about something shamanic. Bye.